Praise the Lord. According to 1 year Bible reading plan day 22, we have Exodus chapters 21 to 24. Exodus chapter 21. Give the Israelites the following laws. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve you for 6 years. In the 7th year, he is to be set free without having to pay anything. If he was unmarried when he became your slave, he is not to take a wife with him when he leaves. But if he was married when he became your slave, he may take his wife with him. If his master gave him a wife and she bore him sons or daughters, the woman and her children belong to the master, and the man is to live by himself. But if the slave declares that he loves his master, his wife, and his children, and does not want to be set free, then his master shall take him to the place of worship. There he is to make him stand against the door or the doorpost and put a hole through his ear. Then he will be his slave for life. If a man sells his daughter as a slave, she is not to be set free as male slaves are. If she is sold to someone who intends to make her his wife, but he doesn't like her, then she is to be sold back to her father. Her master cannot sell her to foreigners because he has treated her unfairly. If a man buys a female slave to give to his son, he is to treat her like a daughter. If a man takes a second wife, he must continue to give his first wife the same amount of food and clothing and the same rights that she had before. If he does not fulfill these duties to her, he must set her free and not receive any payment. Whoever hits someone and kills him is to be put to death. But if it was an accident and he did not mean to kill him, he can escape to a place which I will choose for you, and there he will be safe. But when someone gets angry and deliberately kills someone else, he is to be put to death, even if he has run to my altar for safety. Whoever hits his father or mother is to be put to death. Whoever kidnaps someone either to sell him or to keep him as a slave is to be put to death. Whoever curses his father or his mother is to be put to death. If there is a fight and someone hits someone else with a stone or with his fist but does not kill him, he is not to be punished. If the one who was hit has to stay in bed but later is able to get up and walk outside with the help of a cane, the one who hit him is to pay for his lost time and take care of him until he gets well. If a slave owner takes a stick and beats his slave, whether male or female, and the slave dies on the spot, the owner is to be punished. But if the slave does not die for a day or two, the master is not to be punished. The loss of his property is punishment enough. If some men are fighting and hurt a pregnant woman so that she loses her child, but she is not injured in any other way, the one who hurt her is to be fined whatever amount the woman's husband demands, subject to the approval of the judges. But if the woman herself is injured, the punishment shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. If someone hits his male or female slave in the eye and puts it out, he is to free the slave as payment for the eye. If he knocks out a tooth, he is to free the slave as payment for the tooth. If a bull gores someone to death, it is to be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but its owner is not to be punished. But if the bull had been in the habit of attacking people, and its owner had been warned, but did not keep it pinned up, then if it gores someone to death, it is to be stoned, and its owner is to be put to death also. However, if the owner is allowed to pay a fine to save his life, he must pay the full amount required. If the bull kills a boy or a girl, the same rule applies. If the bull kills a male or female slave, its owner shall pay the owner of the slave 30 pieces of silver, and the bull shall be stoned to death. If someone takes the cover of a pit, or if he digs one and does not cover it, and a bull or a donkey falls into it, he must pay for the animal. He is to pay the money to the owner and may keep the dead animal. If someone's bull kills someone else's bull, the two of them shall sell the live bulls and divide the money. They shall also divide up the meat from the dead animal. But if it was known that the bull had been in the habit of attacking, and its owner did not keep it penned up, he must make good the loss by giving the other man a live bull, but he may keep the dead animal. Exodus chapter 22. If someone steals a cow or a sheep and kills it or sells it, he must pay 5 cows for 1 cow, and 4 sheep for 1 sheep. He must pay for what he stole. If he owns nothing, he shall be sold as a slave to pay for what he has stolen. If the stolen animal, whether a cow, a donkey, or a sheep, is found alive in his possession, he shall pay 2 for 1. If a thief is caught breaking into a house at night and is killed, the one who killed him is not guilty of murder. But if it happens during the day, he is guilty of murder. If someone lets his animals graze in a field or a vineyard, and they stray away and eat up the crops growing in someone else's field, he must make good the loss with the crops from his own fields or vineyards. If someone starts a fire in his own field and it spreads through the weeds to someone else's field and burns up grain that is growing or that has been cut and stacked, the one who has started the fire is to pay for the damage. If anyone agrees to keep someone else's money or other valuables for him, and they are stolen from his house, the thief, if found, shall repay double. But if the thief is not found, the one who was keeping the valuables is to be brought to the place of worship, and there he must take an oath that he has not stolen the other one's property. In every case of a dispute about property, whether it involves cattle, donkeys, sheep, clothing, or any other lost object, the 2 people claiming the property shall be taken to the place of worship. The one whom God declares to be guilty shall pay double to the other one. If anyone agrees to keep someone else's donkey, cow, sheep, or other animal for him, and the animal dies or is injured or is carried off in a raid, and if there was no witness, the man must go to the place of worship and take an oath that he has not stolen the other man's animal. If the animal was not stolen, the owner shall accept the loss, and the other man need not repay him. But if the animal was stolen, the man must repay the owner. If it was killed by wild animals, the man is to bring the remains as evidence. He need not pay for what has been killed by wild animals. If anyone borrows an animal from someone else, and it is injured or dies when its owner is not present, he must pay for it. But if that happens when the owner is present, he need not repay. If it is a rented animal, the loss is covered by a rental price. If a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged, he must pay the bride price for her and marry her. But if her father refuses to let him marry her, he must pay the father a sum of money equal to the bride price of a virgin. Put to death any woman who practices magic. Put to death any man who has sexual relations with any animal. Condemn to death anyone who offers sacrifices to any god except me, the Lord. Do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner. Remember that you were foreigners in Egypt. Do not mistreat any widow or orphan. If you do, I, the Lord, will answer them when they cry out to me for help, and I will become angry and kill you in war. Your wives will become widows, and your children will be fatherless. If you lend money to any of my people who are poor, do not act like a money lender and require him to pay interest. If you take someone's cloak as a pledge that he will pay you, you must give it back to him before the sun sets, because it is the only covering he has to keep him warm. What else can he sleep in? When he cries out to me for help, I will answer him because I am merciful. Do not speak evil of God, and do not curse the leader of your people. Give me the offerings from your grain, your wine, and your olive oil when they are due. Give me your firstborn sons. Give me the firstborn of your cattle and your sheep. Let the firstborn male stay with its mother for 7 days, and on the 8th day offer it to me. You are my people, so you must not eat the meat of any animal that has been killed by wild animals. Instead, give it to the dogs. Exodus chapter 23. Do not spread false rumors, and do not help a guilty person by giving false testimony. Do not follow the majority when they do wrong, or when they give testimony that perverts justice. Do not show partiality to a poor person at his trial. If you happen to see your enemy's cow or donkey running loose, take it back to him. If his donkey has fallen under its load, help him to get the donkey to its feet again. Don't just walk off. Do not deny justice to a poor person when he appears in court. Do not make false accusations, and do not put an innocent person to death, for I will condemn everyone who does such an evil thing. Do not accept a bribe, for a bribe makes people blind to what is right and ruins the cause of those who are innocent. Do not mistreat a foreigner. You know how it feels to be a foreigner, because you were foreigners in Egypt. For 6 years, plant your land and gather in what it produces. But in the 7th year, let it rest, and do not harvest anything that grows on it. The poor may eat what grows there, and the wild animals can have what is left. Do the same with your vineyards and your olive trees. Work 6 days a week, but do not work on the 7th day, so that your slaves and the foreigners who work for you and even your animals can rest. Listen to everything that I, the Lord, have said to you. Do not pray to other gods, and do not even mention their names. Celebrate 3 festivals a year to honor me. In the month of Abib, the month in which you left Egypt, celebrate the festival of unleavened bread in the way that I commanded you. Do not eat any bread made with yeast during the 7 days of this festival. Never come to worship me without bringing an offering. Celebrate the harvest festival when you begin to harvest your crops. Celebrate the festival of shelters in the autumn when you gather the fruit from your vineyards and orchards. Every year at these 3 festivals, all your men must come to worship me, the Lord your God. Do not offer bread made with yeast when you sacrifice an animal to me. The fat of animals sacrificed to me during these festivals is not to be left until the following morning. Each year, bring to the house of the Lord your God the first grain that you harvest. Do not cook a young sheep or goat in its mother's milk. I will send an angel ahead of you to protect you as you travel and to bring you to the place which I have prepared. Pay attention to him and obey him. Do not rebel against him, for I have sent him, and he will not pardon such rebellion. But if you obey him and do everything I command, I will fight against all your enemies. My angel will go ahead of you and take you into the land of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will destroy them. Do not bow down to their gods or worship them, and do not adopt their religious practices. Destroy their gods and break down their sacred stone pillars. If you worship me, the Lord your God, I will bless you with food and water, and take away all your sickness. In your land, no woman will have a miscarriage or be without children. I will give you long lives. I will make the people who oppose you afraid of me. I will bring confusion among the people against whom you fight, and I will make all your enemies turn and run from you. I will throw your enemies into panic. I will dry out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites as you advance. I will not drive them out within a year's time. If I did, the land would become deserted, and the wild animals would be too many for you. Instead, I will drive them out little by little until there are enough of you to take possession of the land. I will make the borders of your land extend from the Gulf of Aqaba to the Mediterranean Sea, and from the desert to the Euphrates River. I will give you power over the inhabitants of the land, and you will drive them out as you advance. Do not make any agreement with them or with their gods. Do not let those people live in your country. If you do, they will make you sin against me. If you worship their gods, it will be a fatal trap for you. Exodus chapter 24. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up the mountain to me, you and Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the leaders of Israel, and while you are still some distance away, bow down in worship. You alone and none of the others are to come near me. The people are not even to come up the mountain." Moses went and told the people all the Lord's commands and all the ordinances, and all the people answered together, "We will do everything that the Lord has said us." Moses wrote down all the Lord's commandments. Early the next morning, he built an altar at the foot of the mountain and set up 12 stones, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young men, and they burned sacrifices to the Lord and sacrificed some cattle as fellowship offerings. Moses took half of the blood of the animals and put it in bowls, and the other half he threw against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant, in which the Lord's commandments were written, and read it aloud to the people. They said, "We will obey the Lord and do everything that he has commanded." Then Moses took the blood in the bowls and threw it on the people. He said, "This is the blood that seals the covenant which the Lord made with you and when he gave all these commandments." Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the leaders of Israel went up the mountain, and they saw the God of Israel. Beneath his feet was what looked like a pavement of sapphire, as blue as the sky. God did not harm these leading men of Israel. They saw God, and they ate and drank together. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up the mountain to me while you are here. I will give you 2 stone tablets, which contain all the laws that I have written for the instruction of the people." Moses and his helper Joshua got ready, and Moses began to go up the holy mountain. Moses said to the leaders, "Wait here in the camp for us until we come back. Aaron and Hur are here with you, and so whoever has a dispute to settle can go to them." Moses went up Mount Sinai, and a cloud covered it. The dazzling light of the Lord's presence came down on the mountain. To the Israelites, the light looked like a fire burning on top of the mountain. The cloud covered the mountain for 6 days, and on the 7th day the Lord called to Moses from the cloud. Moses went on up the mountain into the cloud. There he stayed for 40 days and 40 nights. May the Lord bless us abundantly. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.